The chair recognizes Representative Lekas from Hudson to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Teachers, staff, and parents carry in public schools across New Hampshire every school day now. And that is actually explicitly permitted by federal law for those that have a license to carry valid in the state where the school is. I've had children and grandchildren in the Hudson schools, and I've carried in the schools many times, and I know other parents who do the same. The question is, why do we go to the trouble of doing that? And I'll tell you, it is some trouble and expense. Some think it's because so that we feel important or macho or something of that nature. The answer actually is that we carry out of love. Love for our lives, love for our families' lives, and love for the lives of other innocents around us. And an author that I'm sure some of you at least have heard of, J.R.R. Tolkien, has stated it better than I can. I do not love the bright sword for its sharpness, nor the arrow for its swiftness, nor the warrior for his glory. I love only that which they defend. I am a firearms instructor, and I have trained teachers and staff who carry because they love and feel a duty to protect the children they are responsible for. Some are uncomfortable with the idea of people carrying around them. They feel that guns don't belong around children, and especially don't belong in schools. Actually, it is people who intend to harm children that don't belong around children, not guns. That's not the issue. This bill will do nothing to keep such people from harming children. Instead, it will prevent those who carry out of love and could be available to protect children if there were such a threat from having effective tools to do so. If you do care for the children, please press the red button to oppose this committee recommendation. Thank you.
Will the member yield to a question?
Sure.
Representative Horn, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the representative for taking my question. I have a permit to carry in New Hampshire, and I substitute teach. And I asked my vice principal what his response would be if I was carrying on campus. And his response would be, he would ask me to leave. My question is, do you feel other administrators would feel comfortable asking somebody to leave if they felt that they were carrying a weapon on campus?
I mean, it's certainly possible, maybe even likely, that some administrators might do that, might ask staff or a teacher to leave who's carrying. But I don't believe, whatever that, I'm sure that person would do so with good intent. But I don't believe, in fact, they would actually be doing anything to protect the students, and actually quite the opposite.
Will the member yield to a follow-up question?
Yes.
Member yields. Representative Horn.
As an individual responsible, having a permit, being asked to leave from the school grounds, do you find it unusual that I would acquiesce to that request, being that he is in charge of that campus, in charge of that safety, and I'm a responsible individual that will honor his commitment?
No, I'm not surprised.
Will the member yield to a further question? The member yields. Yes. Representative Seaworth, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for taking my question. I was a little confused by the member who spoke before you, and I'd ask your help on this. As I looked at the bill last night, well, the member stated in the first part of the debate that this bill simply codifies the existing federal law into our state law. Yet, as I was looking at this bill last night, it seemed that this bill goes further than state law. Can you help me understand what the case is here?
I assume you meant further than federal law.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. As I stated, federal law does explicitly permit carrying in schools and school zones if that person has a license to carry that is valid in the state in which the school is. And, while that's not required as part of New Hampshire law, and recently we, this body and the other passed a bill that removed the requirement for a license to carry, Still under federal law, if someone is going to carry legally in the schools, they would have to have a valid license to carry.
Would the member yield to another question? Representative Spillane, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for taking my question. I've been listening to the debate on this and the points that are being made, and I don't see how this is enforceable without an illegal search of a person picking up their child. What is to state that the person that's picking up their child has actually locked the gun in their vehicle? What's the enforcement mechanism, or is this law completely unenforceable without illegal search of individuals?
I believe the only circumstance under which this law would really come into play is if somehow the firearm became visible and was noticed, but otherwise I believe you're correct.
Would the member yield to one more question? Representative Nelson, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know someone said opposed to in favor of this bill about state police are allowed to go on. My question regards to federal agents. I have some people that I know that are federal agents that go all over the country doing investigative work. One could be in the Secret Service, marshals, etc. How do they stand in this whole process? Are they allowed to drop their child off to school, or if there is a problem, to respond, or would that be illegal? I don't know who I'm asking it to, but...
You're asking me, I guess. Sorry, though. I'm not certain of the answer. I'd have to look over the bill more, that part of it about who's allowed to carry more carefully. I know there's something there about law enforcement being permitted under some circumstances, but I don't know who all is covered.
Will the member recognize Representative Spillane for his second and follow-up and last follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for taking another follow-up question. Something that the previous questioner asked made me also want to ask. I have at least one constituent in my town who is a TSA agent and in fact a supervisor of the TSA, and as such carries and is frequently at the school. And would this then also create problems for him in his duties as a TSA agent?
It's possible that it would, but again, I would have to look over the section of the bill that details what law enforcement is permitted to carry and under what circumstances before I could give a good answer.